a friend sent me a tweet that came from Men in Blazers, and it said, we're looking for someone with television experience who also loves football. Sent in my resume, applied, went and met them, told them I was an Ipswich fan. It's not every day that you meet an Ipswich fan with this nice non-regional generic.
Welcome to Touchline Talk, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes into the minds of football managers, club administrators, people within the media, anybody in the behind the scenes nature of the game. Now, today is a very special episode. Joining us is Jonathan Williamson, the beloved J-Dubs that you've heard referred to on the Men in Blazers podcast with Roger Bennett. It has been the top soccer podcast in America for about a decade now. And if you've heard anything in the soccer media, you've now heard that Men in Blazers is not just a podcast, but the Men in Blazers Media Network. J-Dubs has been the executive producer with Men in Blazers for several years now. Get into his story of how he got into the media side of the game and his love for football, how it meshed up with his career path within media, working for Men in Blazers. Stick around for my conversation with Jonathan Williamson. Welcome. And where are you coming from today at the time of this interview?
I am here in New York City. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, I'm at Men in Blazers Media Network's offices and in our pod studio right here, sort of our auxiliary pod studio. So yeah, really thrilled to be joining you. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks, man. All right, we've been asking this question to everybody in this series, okay? So whether they're coaches or on the media side or operations side, if there was one rule that you could change in football, if there was one rule that you could change, what would it be and why?
Okay, so here's what I'm going to go with. And I'm actually not going to change a rule. I'm going to change a rule back. I'm going to bring back the away goals rule. And here's why. I have an affinity for the away goals rule. And here's the story behind it. And I'll try and give you the short version, is that prior to Men in Blazers, I was working at a since canceled show called Crowd Goes Wild on Fox Sports 1. At the time, this was like 2012, 2013. It was hosted by Regis Philbin. Katie Nolan was on it. Michael Costa was on it. Jason Gay, the Wall Street journalist, columnist, was on it. And so at the time, Fox had the Champions League, and that was our lead-in. Crowd Goes Wild was on at 5 p.m. Every time the Champions League was in threat of going into extra time, the executive producers, I was just an associate producer at the time, but they couldn't figure out whether we would be delayed or bumped or what it was. And I was the only one who knew the away goals rule and how it worked. So they'd be like, what do you mean Juventus is winning? This could go into extra time. Juventus is winning 3-1. How could it go into extra time? And I'm like, oh, here's how, because Sevilla had, scored away, et cetera, et cetera. And that is what brought me in front of them. And that is what eventually had them recommend me to Michael Davis at Men in Blazers, because it was his company that also produced Crowd Goes Wild. But knowing the away goal rule is what basically helped get me this job, or one of the things that helped me get this job. So I'm bringing it back.
I love it. And I miss the away goals rule as well. It's like I'm watching a match. I'm like, oh, this team's gonna go through. No. The away goals rule. Bring it back. Bring it all the way back. I love it. What a shout.
It was the only kind of math I was ever good at. I couldn't do basic arithmetic, but I somehow knew the away goals rule.
I love it. Now, spoiler alert, your traditional path has not been one of like being a professional soccer player or some sort of coach or this or that, or maybe you've done some level of coaching. It's been through the media side. And I think what we're trying to do here at Touchline Talk is trying to give a viewfinder, a little sightline into the trajectory of people's careers, how they got involved in the beautiful game. There is a great story and a great, article that dives into how you ended up at Men in Blazers. But before we get to that, how did you get involved in the game? Were you a player, a fan, or was it the media side? How did you get involved and fall in love with the beautiful game?
No, so it's a similar story of circumstance. Is I'm a military brat. My father was in the American Air Force for 26 years. We moved all around the world growing up: Korea, New Mexico, California, Arizona, Florida, New Jersey, South Carolina, Virginia. And when I was 10, we moved to England. And I'd had some exposure to soccer prior to moving to England, but when we got there, it was sort of the only game in town. This was 1992, 1993. Yeah, I'm sorry, February of 1992. And so we were right on the precipice of the first season of the Premier League, right? We moved to a place called Ipswich, which is in Suffolk, East Anglia, which is sort of the rural, sort of like the beer belly of England that sticks out over the North Sea, right? And the American military installations there are relics of the Second World War. American Air Force had bases there because they were closest geographically to Germany, and the planes could get over Germany and back with the amount of fuel they had, right? So we end up there in 92, just the Air Force ships you to wherever they want to ship you. And that's where we ended up. And it was the first, like, Ipswich was then in the second division on the precipice of being promoted to the Premier League. And that was my local team. And my dad is a big fan of sport, not like necessarily a soccer fan, but just like loves all sports, big track and field person, loves NBA, big NFL guy. But, we turned up there and there were tickets on offer to go see Ipswich at Portman Road. And we went, and that was my introduction. I was 10. So the things that can sort of take you away and distract you from sports as you get a little bit older as a teenager hadn't quite made their way into my life yet. So it was just all soccer all the time. And I was hooked.
I love it. I love it. And my beloved Calvin Phillips, there's a Kemar Roof here, a Leeds United jersey. He's hanging out at Ipswich. Unfortunately, we couldn't give you 2021 Calvin Phillips.
He's doing a lot of hanging out.
Yes, yes, he is. Yes, he is. It's amazing that just a mere 4 years ago he was England Player of the Year. Right? Isn't that wild? When they made that Euro run. So yes, to be back in. What's it been like for you to have them in the top flight? What's that been like?
Yeah, it's been really special on a number of levels, right? Like when they went back down in the early 2000s, the game in this country was in such a different place, and it was hard to watch them. Like, I'm talking just like on a pragmatic level, was a lot of like, well, how are you going to watch Ipswich? A lot of, just going online, looking it up. Then Twitter comes about and you're just constantly checking Twitter. And I know there's iFollow, but when they came up, it was really special for two reasons. One, deeply personal, and then I would say one, very pragmatic. And I'll do the pragmatic one first, is just getting to watch them every week has been such a joy, no matter how poor it has been. It is like something that I don't take for granted, having to scramble around like, oh, how did they do this week, against Rotherham, to find that on Twitter, to now have it in my living room every Saturday, Sunday. I do not take that for granted. It has been just wonderful. And then on the personal side is I have a 4-year-old son, and he is just kind of getting into football. And so I've gotten to share it all with him. Like, he's been into it, like, to get to see his eyes open to the game at this time with sort of a team that means so much to me and a team that I discovered as a child has been really wonderful. And again, I don't take it for granted. I mean, it's been a very difficult season for Ipswich. We only have 3 wins thus far in the league, but I will say I remember every one of them. One of them I was fortunate enough to be at with my son, and it was incredible. And I can remember the other 2 plain as day. So the other thing that's helped sort of mollify the fact that it hasn't been the season we've wanted from a results perspective is the fact that, like, to go back-to-back promotions, we weren't meant to be here anyway. It does feel like house money. It does feel like let's enjoy this while we have it, because we know it could be fleeting. So it's probably not going to end up the way I hoped it would end up, but I've really enjoyed it, and I've made a conscious effort to do so.
I love that. That's beautiful. I mean, and yeah, the back-to-back promotions was wild. Absolutely wild to see that. And man, what a joy. And I hope you do enjoy these next couple of months as much as possible, because it is sweet. And as a Leeds fan, you never know if and when you're going to come back, right? And so you just don't know. So soaking it up is good stuff, man. I love that.
That's what clubs like Leeds is what, I think Ipswich, obviously 2 traditional English powerhouses, but like even that ability to come right back up is sort of now becoming the long game, right? Like that's another reason why there's no immediate panic when you go back down. You're going to have the parachute payments, and
Yep.
hopefully, you get a year to sort of consolidate in the championship, get stronger, lift those weights like Brendan Aronson, and come right back up.
Absolutely. J-Dub, how did this media journey that you've been on end up with you coming in and not only, working with on the Men in Blazers show with Raj and Davo over the years, and I know there's been lots of growth and lots of new shows on, and now it's a media network and all these things that are being realized. How did that just come to be? What were you doing beforehand, and how'd you end up getting involved in all of this?
Yeah, so when I finished up college, I went to Virginia Tech, and ended up working in local news, right? WSLS in Roanoke, Virginia. I was a writer for $10 an hour. That was my first job, and I loved writing. I loved television. I sort of loved the medium of broadcasting. So I worked in local news in Roanoke, worked in local news in Richmond, Virginia. Eventually, made my way up to NBC News in Washington. Got sort of burnt out by the day-to-day grind of that type of journalism. Also, the rigors of journalism itself, which I deeply, deeply respect. In like, and I know enough to know, like, okay, maybe this isn't going to be for me long term. So I moved to New York, went to grad school, finished a grad school program, which, don't ask me why, we won't get into it, was also in journalism. So maybe not the brightest move, given that I knew I wanted to get out of the field, but finished up. All of my classmates had offers. Literally, they were going to ABC News, NBC News, all of these types of places. And I just knew I didn't want to get sucked back into that. Right. So I had no
Mm.
prospects at all. I just finished up a master's program, no job, apartment in New York, just was like, I got to hold on. I really want to stay here. A friend sent me a tweet that came from Men in Blazers, and it said, we're looking for someone with television experience who also loves football." Sent in my resume, applied, went and met them, told them I was an Ipswich fan. It's not every day that you meet an Ipswich fan with this nice non-regional generic American accent. And so I think that surprised them. They gave me a chance on one show, which then led to Crowd Goes Wild, which then led back to Men in Blazers. And so that was it. Really, it was just I responded to a tweet and sent my resume in and shot my shot.
In all of this, talk to me about just, okay, you love football, you're doing this thing in journalism, you're doing some creative things. I mean, this thing that you all did in Wrexham with just capturing it with iPhones, unbelievable, by the way, unbelievable. What have been some of those just like absolute joy-filling experiences of covering the game, of meeting all kinds of people, of working with creatives like Raj and I mean, brilliant folks. What has just been kind of some of those things that have just been those sweetest moments on this journey for you?
Yeah, look, I'll say, and this is something I tell everyone I talk to for a prospective position at Men in Blazers, sort of as we grow. And it's one thing that I feel really strongly about. And it's that when I joined, like, Michael and Roger really didn't have, they were taking a chance on me, right? Like, sort of like pulled me from obscurity. And the one thing I learned were were already two wildly successful creatives, but they made it such, they created an environment where the best idea always won, right? Like, I would pitch jokes, I would pitch video edits, I would pitch stories, I would send questions for guests. And I was seeing them getting used on TV, and I was like, wow, these guys, this is like an ego free place in the sense of creativity. They really do just want to use the best, wherever that comes from, they don't care. And, Raj has really kept that ethos and that meritocracy in place. 12 years later, I've been here for about 11 years. And it's been like that the whole time. And the example that he set for that, like, really has made me sort of almost a zealot for that type of atmosphere
Mm.
in a creative environment. Is like, it has to be the best idea always wins. It does not matter who it comes from. So that's not a singular moment. That's more of like, I would say, the ethos of the brand. And I credit Michael and Roger for that, for starting it. And then Roger has really been steadfast in his commitment to it over the years as we've grown, as it's gone from one show to a network where it gets much harder to maintain that. But it still does feel like that kind of place to me day in, day out. And I tell this to people when they interview for positions here, and I tell them that when that ends, I will leave,
Yeah.
because I've seen the way it works. And yeah, that has been, I would say, what has driven me forward here, and something that, like, there have been so many amazing moments that, like, I do not take for granted. But what I cherish more than anything is that, it sounds highfalutin, but that meritocracy in a workspace and in a creative environment.
Yeah. Oh, that's one, it's great to hear that, right? Like that, it's like the bright hope of like, oh, these guys are hilarious and they do some great things, and this is where I kind of get my soccer intake for the week or the month or this or that. But to know that, man, it's the culture that you feel externally is what's happening behind the curtain all the time is actually a really beautiful and unique thing, regardless of industry. Let me ask you on this, what makes a great story in the world of sport? I think it's so easy to just recap scores and do some of those things, and that's important. But what kind of makes a story interesting? What is compelling to you, of something to highlight, spotlight? How are we telling it? Whether it's a player profile, whether it's something historical, whether it's something tactical, what makes it interesting for you? What are these stories that you're really trying to tell and capture through what you're doing at the Men in Blazers Media Network?
Yeah, look, I think that the most important thing, and this is something that sort of has been with me from my time in grad school, is they would always say, like, look, the best stories are about people. They're not about things. It's the human story. And I think that's something that Men in Blazers really tries to lean into across the media network, is like the human side of it, right? And like what a person is feeling when their team wins or loses, or they experience something off the field. I mean, my favorite interviews that we've ever done are with people that I should have no business relating to. Like, what am I going to have in common with Mohamed Salah or Virgil van
Mm.
Dijk, or Kevin De Bruyne, or one of these people that Raj has interviewed, right? But oftentimes, what Raj will do is he will get a human side of them that you don't see in a lot of interviews. That makes me actually, you're sitting there listening to the interview and you're like, oh, yeah, that's like a deeply human moment about,
Mm.
Mohamed Salah's daughters, or, how Virgil van Dijk experienced a change of culture when he came from Scotland to England, or any number of things like that. But when you can put it on the human level, I think that's what we strive to do. I think that's what Raj has an incredible talent at. And I think that's what connects me to it, because I'm a lot less interested now. I know it's become, more popular than ever. Stats and sabermetrics and these types of things is like, it's not what I'm drawn to about the game. I think it's definitely fascinating, but like, I always just love the human side of it.
With so much changing in media, even in your 11 years with Men in Blazers, from audio podcasts to YouTube to streaming to major network television, and you guys have kind of done it all, the social media presence, all these things. Where do you think content, when it comes to sport, and I think you alluded to it a little bit, the human side of what you guys are doing, but where is this thing headed? Because that is just, now you guys have this massive footprint. Where is kind of capturing and telling the stories? Everyone has a phone, everyone has a podcast, everyone has this, that, and the other. Where's this thing going in the next 5 to 10 years? And how do we keep up with it? And what are some of the unique things that you guys see coming down the pipe?
Oh man, look, I wish I knew. I have no idea, is what I will say. In the 11 years I've been doing it, it has changed. I tell people this all the time too. I just can't even articulate how much it has changed. When I first started, the games would be on the weekend. You'd watch them. You'd talk about it on Monday. Write a podcast. It'd be recorded on Tuesday, edited Tuesday, out on Wednesday, and that was fine. That was acceptable. Listeners enjoyed it on a Wednesday. Now, if something is out 6 hours after the final whistle blows, it's old. It's like, no, we've moved on from this. Just like we as sports fans have moved on, we've been conditioned to move on so quickly. So it's really changed the way we've done things, how quick you have to be. And I don't know where it's heading, but it's like everything is getting more instant. I mean, the positive side of this is like the tools to do it have just become so much easier. I mean, like 4 years ago, even like 3 or 4 years ago, we'd be sitting there transcribing an interview to put the subtitles on the videos. Now you have AI that does it like that. And that doesn't mean I'm not scared of the robots. I'm very scared of the robots, but there are definitely things that have made creating high quality content easy, making it more accessible to everyone, sort of democratize the process as well, right? Like you don't have to have always it used to be you had to have Avid to get on and edit something, and then it's gotten so much easier. You can do it on your phone now. So look, I think that's exciting and terrifying in equal measure, but the pace with which things have accelerated is just, it's astronomical. It is always on.
Yeah. And I think you guys do this great mix of reacting. I mean, I remember, when it was like the instant reaction live where you're jumping on like Spotify or different things like that. And Roger's like letting people come into it. Like that was a total new experience. And then obviously live streaming things to doing live shows. You guys have kind of done it all, as well as still like the evergreen longer form stuff where you spotlight somebody, do a deeper dive and tell those human stories. And I've enjoyed it. I love it. I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do next, and what you're going to continue to uphold and do the same. Now, talk to us a little bit. If there was somebody who's saying, hey, maybe they have a media background, maybe they just love the game and want to get involved at a different level from some sort of operational media side, something of that nature, what just kind of encouragement and advice would you give to somebody looking to go down that path?
Yeah, and look, I think now is there's no time like it, right? Like I would say just make, if you want whatever you want to do in the space, you should be doing it. There's no reason not to be now. You can shoot on phones, you can edit on phones, you can have your own social accounts. Like right now, it doesn't take, like, the foot in the door doesn't have to be the door to sort of some monolithic network like it used to be 20 years ago. It can be just like scrappy, down and dirty. And, the cream will rise in that sense. Like good stories will get noticed now. Now, it's a very crowded space now. A lot of people are doing it. I understand that argument too. But I do think that if you're willing to put in the reps and just like constantly boom, 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 make and create what you want to do, then it will get noticed and you will get in there. And even if it's on a smaller level of like someone will come across it that does work at one of the more traditional media houses, then they can bring you into the fold that way. But I would just say, like, there's no excuse right now for people who want to get into sort of the media game not to just be making and creating whatever they do. There's like no barrier to entry right now.
J-Dubs, as we kind of start landing the plane a little bit here, I've got to ask this one. If you could interview 3 football figures, past or present, now I know you all have as a group quite a bit, who would they be and why?
Oh man, 3 football figures, past or present. This is a tough one. All right, I'll give you a personal one just because I loved him so much as a player when I was a kid. And he's kind of experiencing a renaissance, I think, even here in the United States. Ali McCoist, former Glasgow Rangers and Scotland international. Look, he was just sort of this swashbuckling, this was a guy who was made for the social media age, or maybe not made for the social media age. Um, like before it was a thing, like someone who had the audacity to be a star. I think someone described him as like someone who like wasn't afraid of the responsibility of scoring goals when when other people would shirk even shooting. So like I just loved his attitude. I loved his swagger in like the damp, muddy fields of Scotland. There was sort of the shaggy blonde head guy running around. So I loved him as a player, and he's sort of come back into the fold as an announcer, like going viral on like, the ACDC clip when he hears ACDC of coming on as he's about to do a post game hit and then wilds out about it. So I loved Ali McCoy. That's a personal one. I think two others. Look, here, I'll give you one who we have interviewed. This is sort of a cop out because we have, but Noel Gallagher of Oasis fame. Like, I'm just a huge Oasis fan. We have been so fortunate to have so many people on the like well-known people on the show, and it's sort of like you don't when you're typically just like and it's the same on shows I've worked on in the past. Like you don't want to be going up to everyone and be like, oh, can I get a picture, can I get a picture? Like you want to have some modicum of professionalism, right? But when Noel came in, I told Michael and Roger in advance, I was like, I'm so sorry. I just have to ask, can I get a picture with him? And they were very cool with it. So I have a picture with Noel. So that was one. And I'll tell you the other thing about Noel and like a lot of people we have on and reasons we're very fortunate is like you get people who are in the middle of a press tour for whatever thing and they're sick of answering the same questions. And then once they realize that you only want to talk football with them, they love it and they're completely in, and they all of a sudden they have as much time as you want. And so like Noel was chief amongst that. Like he was so happy to talk City with Roger and Michael. It was just great. And then a third, and I will say we've had him on too. I mentioned him earlier, but I love him. Brendan Aronson is probably my favorite U.S. men's national team player now. I know he's not in the squad for the Nations League, but I love the Yank Badger. I just think like that tenacity to have survived what happened when they were relegated at Leeds, go back to Germany, come back stronger, put on the muscle. I love his game. I love just the Harry, like he will nip it at everyone's heels all the time. Heat map Jesus. Yeah, I love Brendan Aronson. So I'd love to speak with him again post coming back to Leeds and hopefully when they get promoted.
Yeah.
So there's three: Ali McCoy, Ali McCoy, Noel Gallagher, and Brendan Aronson. What a crew!
Nothing like sharing a pint with those three. With Brendan, it is one of those, like, I felt like he got marred a little bit by some of the pushback against the American infusion that was happening with Leeds United. But to see him come back and to do what he's done, and, he's not in the greatest run of form right now, but he has had some really important moments this season. Would love to see him back in the Premier League. Would love to see him, soaring and peaking as the time the World Cup comes, back to America as well.
Absolutely. Like you said, the blowback that he took on the heels of that relegation, to even have to walk back into a bear pit like Ellen Road with the possibility that you may not perform, the bravery that takes. And look, all of these men and women who do it on the professional level, all the time, but like that is no small feat. He had a lot to lose going back to Leeds. And I think that the bravery with which he's done it has been great. And, I love he's a Jersey guy, that he goes down the Jersey Shore, those types of things. So Brendan Aronson's my third.
J-Dubs, I've loved this conversation, but you've got to give me one more thing here. What's your favorite project that you guys have released recently, or something you're working on, that's kind of current, present at the Men in Blazers Media Network?
Yeah, so like I said, we've been blessed to do a lot of like projects that have been really the pinnacle of my professional career. I mean, without a doubt, like some of the people that we've interviewed for personal reasons have been deeply meaningful. Some of the things that I've gotten to conversations that I've gotten to witness with Raj and various football people, just people on a human level, have been incredible. The Band of Brothers project that Raj and I worked on, Raj hosted the official Band of Brothers watch along podcast for HBO, was one of the highlights of my life, personal or professional. But I will say recently I had a footballing moment Um, and I'm lucky enough that I get to go to a fair few games in England, here in the United States. But being back with Raj for the Merseyside Derby, the last one at Goodison, the first one without his father, and to see the atmosphere in that stadium, and when James Tarkovsky scored the 98th minute equalizer, and I was like one of the cameras in the stadium, so I was shooting it, but it was like sort of a pinch myself moment. And I'm not an Everton supporter,
Hmm.
obviously. I have no ties to anything, but to experience that for myself and to get to watch Roger experience it was a moment where I walked out of there and I thought, like, wow, this is really special. I'm a lucky human being that I get to experience this, and like a reminder to not take any of it for granted. So that film actually, and this is now going to turn into a plug, is live on our YouTube channel. It just went up there, but it really was. I hope that how meaningful it was for Raj and for everyone who got to participate in it shines through in the final project. But you can check it out on Men in Blazers YouTube channel, and it's just pure joy when Tark scores that 98th minute equalizer.
If you are not subscribing to what Men in Blazers is doing through their media network and their feed, what I love is when I subscribe on Apple Podcasts to their feed or Spotify or whatever you'd like to do, I get all the shows. Give me them all. Give me all of the content, all the things, all the time. Check that out. What's the title of that video on YouTube again?
If you search Men in Blazers Goodison, it will come right up for you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And J Dubs, it has been such a joy to spend some time with you today. Thank you for just sharing some sightlines into your own career. And we know that's going to be encouraging, inspiring to somebody else. And we just love everything Men in Blazers is doing. So thanks for your journey on that. Thanks for saying yes to this opportunity to come hang out with us today when you could be doing a million other things. And everybody, go check out, if you haven't, you've been living under a rock, go check out what's been happening with Men in Blazers, the Men in Blazers Media Network. All the stuff they're putting out is gold. There's stuff on TV. There is stuff on podcasts. There's stuff on YouTube. You can find them everywhere on all the socials, all the things. J-Dubs, thank you so much. It's such a joy for me and a highlight for me in my journey to be able to chat with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate you guys having me on.